What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. My name is CreatorRedA, and today we're going to be talking about not one, not two, but three different software and how to put all these different aspects of game design together. So we're going to create this crazy creature using images off the internet and put them together in Photoshop. I'm going to draw an outline for it and put together a texture for it in Photoshop. Then we're going to model it in Maya. We're going to do some lighting, and I'll show you a couple things in there. And then we're going to export it and then import it into Unreal Engine, the game design engine, so you can see all those different steps and how those things come together, which is the desired end result of people who watch this channel. Because I've never really been satisfied with knowing just one element of the process. I really want to understand all of it and be good at all of it. So that's what we're going to do here. Hope you guys like it. Let's get creative. Alright, so let's hop right into it. The first thing I'm going to show you here, and a lot of this video is going to be sped up. This is an image of a rock that I took outside of my school, and I put a texture over it, so that's kind of the final result we're going for here. So I open that image up in Photoshop and we apply a filter to it. And so you just go to filter gallery, and we're using this thing called cutout. So I speed it up here because I go through a couple different phases, and this is the end result we get. So then I take that and save it out as a JPEG, because when you're in Photoshop the default is called a .psd. So we save it as a JPEG and put in a special folder with all the other things we're going to be using. And so this is going to be the texture for the hybrid animal that I'm planning to create. So now the next big step is to go onto the internet and find the different images that I want to use to smash together and create my hybrid. So I kind of wanted something that swims and was somewhat dog-like. So I'm looking for a swimming dog, but it's I figured it's going to be hard to do that since all this water is in the way. So it would take a lot longer to really edit the image. So I ended on that standing dog image you saw, and then I saved that out, put it in a new folder, and then open it back up in Photoshop for editing. Now that we have the first part of the image, I need to go find the second part, which I decided was going to be a seal. So I find the image of the seal that you'll see come up here in a moment, drag it into Photoshop, and then begin mashing the two together. And also just a quick note, you can see I got all of these off of the internet. I'm not claiming any of these, but it's a really useful way for you to just grab a couple images and sketch something out for an idea. So the next thing is to enlarge the image and flip it around and make it transparent. That way I can see through the body and really match it up with the dog's body to make it look and fit onto it just like I want to. And then when you're doing this sort of thing, you got to make sure you're on the right layer and a couple other little things in Photoshop, but we'll talk more about that when I can dedicate entire videos to it. So for now, I start editing the pixels behind, like I'm selecting all the background pixels for the seal and the dog to get rid of it, and then selecting the seal and chopping off its head so that I can get just the body onto the dog, which now that I say it, I realize how terrible that sounds, but I promise no animals were hurt in the making of this video. And the next thing we're going to do is go back and get the flippers that I want. So we do the same thing, go on the internet, save it out, throw it into Photoshop, and then mess around with the positioning of it and get rid of the background. And then after all that's done, I'll speed up the video more and you'll see the final image. And this is the crazy hybrid animal that I've created. So now that I've got this to look more or less like I want it to, I do a quick outline of it, and again I'm going to create a new layer. That way basically if you mess up, you don't have to worry about affecting the original image. You can just get rid of the outline. So I make an outline and then I also fill it in to get a silhouette, and this just kind of helps really portray the idea of what this would look like, because the final actual hybrid animal isn't going to look just like this, because this is just a bunch of weird images thrown together, but it gives you the idea of what I'm going for. So now it's time to throw this into Maya and model it, but be warned, this is the monstrosity that I came up with. It's a bit of a mess, but this is the more or less final version, because I decided that modeling a dog, just like modeling any sufficiently complex living thing, like a human, is going to be pretty hard to do, and unless you're an expert, it's going to take a while. So I decided to not do that, and instead we're going to model a rock, because it'll be quicker. You'll see still a lot of the different tools in Maya you can use. I can get to the lighting a little quicker, and this video won't be as long, so I'm going to show you that instead. So what you're seeing here is a polygon primitive sphere, which is really just a fancy term for a shape in Maya. and you can create it with the click of a button. I enlarge it, and then I'm selecting these different faces, and I gave it a lot of faces because the more it has, the more detail you can get. And as you can see, I can then rotate, translate, and scale these different faces to get these really varied shapes and go for the jagged edges that I think a rock would have. And I'm also using something called soft select, which is what these you see this red and this yellow, which is basically allowing me to influence the nearby shapes as well, the nearby faces. Therefore, I don't have to select every little thing. And then I deselect so you can get a better look at what the rock actually looks like, because it looks really different when you're modeling it versus when you're actually just looking at it. You'll also see it'll kind of change appearance when you throw it into the game design engine as well. And now, after I've been doing this for a while, it probably took around 30 or 40 minutes to model this, just because I was kind of being really extra with it, to be honest. But we do all of this, and then I use the sculpt geometry tool to smooth out those little black holes that you see, because that's where edges are kind of running into each other. And when we import that into the game design engine, that's going to mess with it a little bit. So we want to get rid of as much of it as we can. And now we're going to do the lighting and add the textures to it. So what I've done here is I opened up Arnold, which is what allows you to render everything in your scene in Maya, but there are no lights, so you have to actually add lights, and now you can see whatever you have here. So I'm going to zoom through this a little bit, and I'll mess around with the light a little. I'm going to add a little bit of red undertone, and you'll notice there is a difference between the right side and the left side, because Maya is just kind of giving you an approximation of what your model looks like, while Arnold is really fully rendering it out for you. And so here is the final image we're going for, or at least the final model. And I've shown you a little bit of the lights, and now we're going to throw in that texture that we created earlier in Photoshop. So basically, Arnold has these things called shaders, and we can throw that onto our model. And we're going to do something called creating a projection, which is basically going to take the file that we have on the desktop and project it onto the surface. So that loads up, and then I zoom in here and you can see it's actually repeating over and over and over again. So what we have to do is go into it and we change the style of projection that we're doing and turn it into this large sphere. And so with this sphere, I'm able to get it to fit on there just like I want. And then we're going to head over to Unreal Engine and open up a new level and import it as what is called a mesh. So we move over to Unreal Engine and import the rock that we made from Maya as an FBX file, and it comes in as what is called a static mesh. You'll see it in the bottom viewport. Then I'm going to open that up, and you'll see it has a very nice texture, but it didn't carry over the one from Maya, so we'll have to reapply that. Also, you'll notice a couple holes are in there, and that is just from the black parts that I missed when I was smoothing it over, but it's not a big detail for this, so we won't worry about it. So now I have to go and import this texture that we made in Photoshop. So I import that, and it creates something called a texture, and then we throw that on and it will create a corresponding material, which is what we're actually seeing on the rock. So that takes a second to load, and then when you open it up, you see there's a texture sample, and that's what it's referring to when it creates this rock look. And so this is the final result we have. So I really hope you guys enjoyed everything you saw here today. I know the video was really long. We did a whole lot of different stuff, used 3 different software. We came up with this crazy hybrid animal in Photoshop. We created a texture for it in Photoshop, and then because it was kind of hard to model, we ended up going with this rock and modeling that in Maya. Even so, you still got to see a lot of the things you can do using mostly just basic technique, and then finally importing that into an actual game design engine and seeing what that looks like. And from here, I'm just going to zoom around and let you see some other meshes I created, some other textures, and in here are some particle effects. So there's still a whole world of things that I want to show you all. Other than that, thank you so much for coming out and watching this video. Thank you for coming and getting creative with me, CreatorRedA. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video.